you're at an age where you should be on top, but you're getting treated like a T-boy. And that makes me feel really sad. And I'll always say, if you think sacrificing in your 20s and not going out with the boys and having a couple drinks and not sleeping with women, every single weekend, if you think resisting that is hard, try being 55 years old and your alarm goes off at 6 a.m. to get up for a job you hate with a boss that's on your ass and grilling you. Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video I want to talk to you about the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life, and it's stuck with me to this day. Like, obviously I'm talking about it today, so it must have, but it was the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life. And when I saw it, it really was a catalyst for me. I think I might have been 19, 20 years old, but it was a real catalyst for me. Sorry, I'm really tired. It was a catalyst for driving me to where I am today. And sorry, so tired. That light's not helping. I was in a place called Bath in the UK, and I just had a night out with my girlfriend at the time. And we got up the next day. I think it was like a weekday or something. It must have been like a Wednesday. And we kind of just pulled into this car garage, and I could actually see some offices opposite. It was an estate agent. And there was this guy who must have been mid-50s, maybe closer to 60. He came out of the door of this estate agent's, and the boss is just shouting at him, like really loudly shouting at him. It was another man, and this man was younger than him, and he was telling him what to do, and he's telling him to hurry up, okay? So then this guy runs to his car, sprints over to it, drives it into this car garage that I was in, runs up to the fuel, starts filling it up, and he's fretting, he's going like that, he's checking his time, he looks panicked, and it's a shit car as it is. That was the car that he was driving, wasn't a company one or anything. He's wearing like an old suit, shirt slightly untucked, tie slightly out of the place, real old grey-haired guy. And then he sprints into the building, and he pays for his stuff, sprints back out, jumps in his car, and he's fretting, he's tripping up, he's spilling shit, and he's driving off, and he's steaming out of there, and he looks panicked. And I watched that whole experience with just the most saddest feelings in my heart. I was just sat there looking at him, and I was thinking, how the fuck, and I've always stuck with this phrase, how the fuck have you got to a point in life where, you're at an age where you should be on top, you should be succeeding, but you're getting treated like a T-boy? And I always kind of stuck with that phrase where you're at an age where you should be on top, but you're getting treated like a T-boy. And that makes me feel really sad. And I'll always say, if you think sacrificing in your 20s and not going out with the boys and having a couple drinks and not sleeping with women, every single weekend, if you think resisting that is hard, try being 55 years old and your alarm goes off at 6 a.m. to get up for a job you hate with a boss that's on your ass and grilling you for not that much money. 40, 50,000 a year at that age is like, oh yeah, great. Well, what have I got to retire on? It's quite a struggle, okay? So if you think when you're young, and this kicked my ass into gear when I saw this, if you think being young and having to grind and being a young man and being like, things aren't going in my favor, things aren't going well, if you think all of that is tough and you cannot be bothered to put 10 years of work in, just think about when you're 50 years old and you've got to get up for a job you hate, or you've got to do a second job because you've got 2 or 3 kids and, a missus and a house and mortgage payments, whatever. Just think about how much tougher that is and how much of a horrible situation that is. And think of that guy who was getting shouted at by his boss. And think of the rushing around he's doing and the panicking he's doing. Like, this is how male suicide happens. When you get guys that are like 50 years old that just take their own life one night because they're just getting so much shit off everyone. I doubt he's got the life he wants. I doubt he's got the woman he wants. I doubt he's got the family he wants. He's obviously not got the job he wants. He's getting shouted at. Like, this was years ago now. It's probably like close to 10 years ago now. But this guy was, like I said, fucking late 50s. Like, he's probably come up to his 60s now. He might be ready to retire, but you think he's still got 5 or 6 years of that grind, unless he's sorted shit out. But I doubt it. Like, if you think that is tough at 20, 25 or 30 years old, if you think 35 years old and putting in 10 years grind until you're 45 is difficult, and you're like, well, maybe it's too late. Just think about that, guys. Imagine being 55 years old, 10, 11 years from retirement, and being like, fuck, You know, by the time we get to that retirement age, it's probably going to be like 70, okay? So you might be 55 with like 15 years left of working in a job you hate. Maybe you're in a factory and you're like, I'm going to fucking hang myself every day. Like, I've been in that scenario when I was young and I was just like, I don't know why the fuck I'm here. I'm going to shoot myself in the head tonight. And I'm not saying you should do that, guys, but that's like how depressed I would get. I was like, I'm just going to drive into a fucking wall because I hated that job so much. And I thought, the thought of just being there for another year was killing me. Never mind being like 55 years old with ties and bills that you have to pay and you need that job. And it's like 15 years until you're allowed to retire. By the time we get to that point, your boss is on your ass and you're at an age, you're 55 where you should be running the fucking show, but you're still the T-boy. You got to hold your hands up and say, what the fuck went wrong? And the thing is, guys, I've looked at my analytics. Most of us on here are 18 to 35. Like, that's like my average age of guys that are on my channel. We're all so fucking young. We can do something about it now so that when we get to that point in life, we're the boss. We got our feet up. We're running the show. We're driving the nice car. We're taking Wednesdays off to go out with the kids, or we're finishing early on a Friday. I used to be so envious of that. I was in an estate agent and it was the Cheltenham races and all the bosses went and watched it. And then on Fridays they'd finish at 1 and go and play golf. And I was like, fuck, I really want that life. Like, I want to get to that point. And in another job that I had, one of the guys had Tuesdays off, finished at like 1 on a Friday, and it was like, shit, like, I actually like what I do with First Man. I'd like to work every single day. But some days, you know, you do, if you've made a shit ton of money, you get to like 1 on a Friday and you're like, hey, I'm going to go home and enjoy myself. It's not the worst thing in the world, you know, or a big event, like I said, like the races, like Aintree or Cheltenham Gold Cup or something like that, or the Grand National. Or there's a big boxing fight at Wembley or something like that, or the O2. You can shoot and go and watch that. These are the benefits of working hard when you're young. And just don't let that be you guys, because I give a shit about men. Like, I really care about this community, and I give a shit about the men that are on here, men in general. And I just think how sad that would be to be that guy. I hope he's in a situation now where things are better, and I hope that was a one-off, what I saw. But you know for a fact that there's millions of men out there that are in there. Like, we see it in films all the time. There's guys that are like 40, 50 years old, and things have gone really badly for them. They didn't put in the work young. Maybe they were a good-looking guy at school, and they just went out and got drunk and slept with women. And then when that wore off, they were like, what am I? I have no identity. And they're just going to work just to come home and get to the weekend and try and relive their youth, and it doesn't quite work, and, you know, it's back to the reset button. And that mentally is hard to take. And I just think, like I said it a few times already, and I'll say it again, but if you think putting in the work now is hard, try doing it at 50, when you've got less energy and you're fucked off with life and you just can't be bothered, and you can't see a reason why you would do it for the future. You're like, what am I going to do, drive a Ferrari at 70? Like, that's the kind of mindset that a lot of men have when they get older. You know, I might as well put my feet up now. I don't have the energy. And if you, honestly, guys, if you think that is hard, if you think it is tough now, like, some days I'll stay up till 2 a.m, get back up at 5. I'm doing it less now because I want to focus more on health and gym. But when I have 3 hours sleep and I feel like shit, and I'm just like, Chris, come on, you think this is hard? Imagine being a 45, 50-year-old guy who's in a 9-to-5 job that he hates, who has to, you know, figure out what his next move is, and he's running out of hope, optimism, and time, and you're just thinking, what's the fucking point? Because that's not a nice position to be in, guys. It's not a nice position to even watch somebody to be in, never mind to actually be in yourself. So what I'm saying is, whilst you can do something about it, do everything you fucking can to do something about it. Like, use all your energy, your money, your resources, your time, whatever. Do everything now to change that scenario. Because as tough as it is now to be a young man, it's a million fucking times tougher to be an old man who didn't figure it out, who didn't have what he wants, or doesn't have what he wants, and he's just sat in a dead-end job with no way out. Like, when you're young, you have time, you have options, you can take risks. Do it now, guys, because when you get to that later age, all of those possibilities just dissolve, and it's a sad, sad sight to see. I hope all of you see somebody like that in the next 6 months. You see somebody on the street and you can observe it. You know, when they're like, cars aren't everything. I'm not saying this, guys. I'm not saying assets are everything. But when you see a guy who's driving a car who's like 60 years old and it breaks down, and he's just kind of like smacking the bonnet, and, you know, things just didn't go well for him. Things just didn't plan out well, and he's pissed off at life. He's not happy. Probably didn't marry the woman he wanted to be with, or didn't date the woman he wanted to be with. Probably doesn't have the kids he wanted to have, right? Because it's not the right woman. And life just didn't figure out as he planned when he left school, all full of optimism, you know, the good-looking guy or whatever, which is usually the case, ironically. And you just think, fuck, just do something now, guys, because it gets tougher. With each passing year, it gets tougher to figure out. There's more ties, there's more commitments, there's less time, and there's less energy. So just do what you can now. Do everything that you fucking can now. If you can spare 2 hours from 10 till 12 at night, put those 2 hours in. Because it's the compound effect, and you will thank yourself in years to come. You know, if it takes 15 years instead of 5 because you've got a 9-to-5 job and commitments and whatever, and you're only 25 now, and you get to 40 and you finally figure all this shit out, you get 30 grand a month coming in, and you're like, oh my God, done it. You know, that's a good life. That's a very good life. To hit it at 40, even later is not too bad, right? 45, 48, 50, something like that. It's not bad, right, guys? But you don't want to be that guy who's like late 40s, mid 50s, 60s, whatever, and hasn't done shit, and is starting from scratch and going, fuck, where am I going to turn? That might be the saddest thing in the male world. It gets me. Like, all guys talk about breakups and stuff. Yeah, you can recover from that shit. But living with regret, being like 50 years old and having regret about not starting a business, not investing in an idea, spending your money on shit, it's money that you won't get back, you know, not being in the gym and working on yourself. Like I said, if you think the situation now is tough, imagine that one. That gets me out of bed in the mornings, guys. I hope it does you too.